My biggest fear would be when the first comes and I don't get the rent.
I found that my tenant had dumped concrete down my toilet. Can you believe Fair Housing fined me $5,000 for that?
How do you onboard your tenants? What do you do?
I don't even know if I do it right.
If you're a landlord, don't just rent, rent perfect. The Rent Perfect podcast with property expert and private investigator, David Pickron.
Hey, we're back again at the Rent Perfect podcast with my favorite, Scott Aubrey. Scott, you're laughing today.
Just happy, man.
You're just happy to be here. I know why you're laughing. You're laughing because a few months ago, I predicted on June 30th that this eviction moratorium would be over.
Yep, big crystal ball.
And, they extended it today. And before this podcast went right on air, what'd you call me?
There's that guy from the history. I think his name was Nostradamus, or Nostradamus, one of those two. Anyway, you were wrong.
I was wrong. I go out on a limb,
Yep.
and you're either a hero or a zero.
Yep.
Today,
welcome to zerohood.
Today I'm a zero. Nostradamus. That's good. I hope my kids aren't watching.
Yes.
Hey, we're happy to have you today. We're going to talk a little bit about the eviction moratorium being extended for 30 days. It's better than another 3 months. I imagine you can't say 30 days and then in 30 days go, okay, let's go another 90 days. It seems to me like it's a 30-day notice saying this is coming to an end. That is what we're going to talk about today. But there's some preparation that we have to do because now I predicted it June 30th. You're not going to believe me now, but I'm going to predict it July
31.
July 31st. So go ahead and subscribe down below. We always want you to follow us and listen to what we say. We think we kind of got the pulse on what is going on in a small landlord's world. We have the legal counsel that are constantly monitoring these situations, writing articles, filling us in, and we're just trying to bring the news to you if you haven't already heard it. It's one thing to announce that the eviction moratorium has been extended. I think a lot of people can do that. But how does that affect a small landlord? And if you have people that aren't paying rent, what should you do? And if you have people that are paying rent, what should you do? And 3 months ago when we predicted June 30th it would be over, which I was wrong. I'm going to say it a bunch more times, right? Might be the first time ever in my life I was wrong. I'm not sure. But
I'll let your wife know you were wrong today.
But we did a great podcast on 3 different buckets of people.
Yeah.
Now might be the time, knowing that this is 30 days, to go back and watch the 3 different buckets that people are in when the eviction moratorium ends. So with that said, Scott, what do you think? Another 30 days?
Whew. Well, it's 31 technically. It's one of those weird months. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to correct you again. So 30. I think it's interesting that we're here again, and that the CDC. It's the CDC is being authorized to extend this another 31 days. Rather than looking at it as an extension, I think that we need to teach landlords, and we ourselves are going to look at this as a preparation, right?
Right.
This is like, wouldn't we have loved this in high school if it said, hey, in 30 days we're taking the test, and here's all the notes you need for the test, prep out. And I think that's how we need to change this, rather than as a slap on the wrist or a punishment, as really a reprieve where we can go and say, okay, we may have been waiting until today to get the word that, okay, it's not extending, or it is extending. But now we kind of know, like you said, they're probably not going to ramp back up. This is a ramp down. And so as landlords, we need to look at the next 31 days as an opportunity to prepare ourselves,
right?
Really prepare ourselves.
Right. Because in this order, they did say our intent is this is the last one. Now they did leave it open to say if there are new variants, new strains, numbers come up.
States have their own rules or whatever.
Yeah, now, and we are talking about the national eviction moratorium,
right,
too. If you have a state eviction moratorium, that is up to you and the state and doing that. We're just tracking national right now. But I agree with you. I actually think this is a positive thing. And when I heard this, I didn't sink like I did before. I kind of went, okay, we're getting somewhere, maybe the light at the end of the tunnel. Here's what they also are pushing. They want, if your property is covered under the CARES Act, which we all thought, expired July 25th, and they're saying, no, that was outside of that paragraph of expiration. You are supposed to be giving a 30-day notice if you do an eviction, and covered under the CARES Act. You're covered under the CARES Act if your mortgage is backed by Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Section 8, or any kind of federal housing backing. You are under the CARES Act. So what is today? Today is the 24th.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got 38 days until July 31st. If you have to give a 30-day notice, aren't we almost just ready to go?
Yeah, we're 8 days away, right?
We're 8 days away from giving the notice. So if your property's under the CARES Act, now I always want you to check with your local attorney for your local rules, your local moratoriums. But I want you to think about, if I'm under the CARES Act, let's start thinking about giving those 30-day notices. And give them 30 days, your occupants, your tenants that haven't paid. Let's give them time to prepare their lives. We're actually doing them a favor. So this isn't, hey, June 30th, boom, it didn't get extended, you're out. You're out.
I'm the punitive landlord
right.
that's just going to punish you.
Let's make sure that our, tenants know that aren't paying. This is all over now. 30 days, and so you better start preparing, right? Some landlords might get their rent this month, right?
Yeah.
Some landlords might want to, make a deal with people. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't know. Some people might leave overnight, but I will tell you that musical chairs we've been talking about the last 3 months is about to start. If the music isn't already slowly playing,
they're queuing it up for sure.
They're queuing it up. And so as the word gets out and landlords start serving this 30-day notice who are under the CARES Act, more and more people's ears are going to perk up. They're going to start looking. They're going to start giving notices and showing each other the intent of if we're going to be, a landlord-tenant relationship in the next 30, 60 days. You're going to know that. Yeah. Right?
And to, I do have a bit of a bleeding heart. So I feel bad for these tenants too, because they're kind of going, are we or aren't we? Are we? Do I have a roof over my head or do I not have a roof over my head? And this hasn't just. This has strung along landlords obviously for a year and a half, but tenants also that are good or mean well, that have been trying to keep up and trying to pay whatever they can. They're under the same type of pressure to go. Now I got to go find housing, and that's a challenge as well.
Right. So my legal counsel sat us down. We sat down this morning, talked about this, and they said, hey, don't think that evictions are going to go back to exactly they were pre-pandemic. There are a lot of organizations that are going to be fighting hard in the next 30 days to limit evictions. Even in the CDC order, they asked on states to come up with programs to prevent evictions July 31st. Though this order is going away, it doesn't mean we're not going to get a lot of resistance out there. So let's not let our guard down. Let's not get too excited. It's still going to be probably a little bit different. It is right now. You got to give a 30-day notice, and in most states, you don't have to give that long of a notice. Yeah.
Business as usual is not coming back, I don't think, ever in regards to this.
And here's what's crazy. As we discussed this morning, 44 legislatures, the House of Representatives wrote a letter to Biden and said, hey, we want you to continue this moratorium. Here's what's interesting. More than that, 23 state attorney generals wrote a letter saying, we believe you're authorized and we believe you should continue it. That's almost half of our attorney generals. Yeah. And they got on board because they said, now it's not really a health thing anymore. They're turning this into a racial thing. They're saying there are more black and brown people being evicted than white people, so it's disparate impact. And now we have an issue where we're not being fair across the board. Okay? Don't want to get too much into that whole racial argument. I think everything that people don't like becomes a racial argument. But my point is if you think it's just a health issue now, it's not. Financial issue?
Absolutely,
right? Right?
Yeah.
So we might have some financial agencies getting involved. We might have some collection rules that come down from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. We can expect that. CDC's not the only one out there, and there's going to be more problems that our government thinks that they need to come to our rescue. So just keep in mind that I'm celebrating a little bit, but I'm not fully celebrating.
I just wish once in a while that the government or the special interest groups or whatever would look at the totality of this and say, it's not just the tenant that's affected, right? There's a landlord who's having to make mortgage payments more than likely for the last 18 months who's affected. And nobody cares about his financial situation, his race, his health, or anything like that. They just go, well, it's the tenant. We need to protect the tenant.
If the government was the landlord and you were making all these rules for the tenant, that's up to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
But you've hijacked my property, and you're feeling so sorry for these tenants who couldn't pay their rent. Guess what? I feel sorry for them too. But you know who else I feel sorry for? The landlord.
The landlords, yeah.
So we're all in this thing. It is not one-sided. I've had many of our clients sell and get out of the business. I've had many lose a property, and didn't lose a property because they didn't lose it based on like a foreclosure, but they lost it in a way where I think they just lost the hunger to be a landlord anymore because they saw that the cards were stacked against them. And so they just lost the fun of it. The fun just got lost. And so when I say they lost a property, I don't want to make it seem like they went through foreclosure, because the reality is they had protections from foreclosure through the end of June too. But they just lost the love of the game.
Yeah.
And I hate to see that, So, hey, it was continued till July 31st. We're hoping that that this is it. It will never be back
That's
to the same.
fingers crossed, right? Let's use that fingers crossed emoji a lot this next few months,
And there are a lot of people affected by this, not just tenants. And so we're here polling actually for everyone.
Yep.
The reality is we want tenants to pay because then our landlords get paid.
Yep. Greatest business in the world, right?
Everybody wins in this game if
Yep.
everybody pulls their weight.
Yep.
And if you were burned by a job out there, you're a tenant that is going to comment on this about how terrible landlords are. Listen, we're sorry for your circumstances. We have circumstances too. We'll bleed for you if you bleed for us. And let's all get back on track and get back to finding happiness, living in the best country in the world.
Yeah.
And having the freedom to buy, own property, and live our lives the way we do. And until next time, continue to rent. Perfect.